CBS News senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge joins me now from Washington. Hi, Catherine. Thank you so much for being with us. If you would quickly start by just reminding our viewers sort of the genesis of FISA and why it's been problematic up to date.
Okay, so FISA really is short form for a surveillance warrant that's obtained through a national security court, and there's really a special burden on the government to show the court that there's sufficient evidence for probable cause. And the burden is on the government because it's a one-party system. The defense is not represented, so there's a special responsibility on the government to present evidence that supports their surveillance of an American citizen inside the United States, but also evidence that undercuts the surveillance warrant application. And what Inspector General Horowitz, who works at the Justice Department, found at the end of last year is that there were 17 inaccuracies and omissions in these 4 surveillance warrants for a Trump campaign aide. And what's happened subsequently to that is that the Justice Department has found that at least 2 of them were defective. There was not probable cause to monitor that Trump campaign aide, and we're still awaiting for a final judgment on the remaining 2, Tanya.
Okay, and so, Catherine, you spoke with Senator Graham exclusively this morning. What did he tell you about who's on the FISA witness list, and why does this matter?
Well, Senator Graham told CBS News this morning that he plans to deliver a witness list to the Justice Department as early as this week, and this will really set the table, in his words, for private depositions and public hearings into alleged surveillance abuse in 2016 and 2017, he hopes, by the end of this month or the beginning of March. And he told CBS News that he plans to call the former FBI Director James Comey, the former Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, as well as the former Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates and the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. And he said his final witness would be the current FBI Director Christopher Wray. And the reason the first 4 names matter, and I'm going to demonstrate this here, is this very thick document is the surveillance warrant application for Trump campaign aide Carter Page. It's the initial application from October 2016, and then the 3 subsequent renewals that ran through the fall of 2017. And if you actually look closely here, what you see is a signature. Each one of these had to be signed off by a very senior FBI and Justice Department official. In this case, the original application was signed off by the FBI Director James Comey. So those officials are taking ownership for the application, and they're also standing behind it, saying to the National Security Court, this is credible information. We're confident in this application because there's really no higher bar than the surveillance of an American citizen inside this country.
So, Catherine, you mentioned Christopher Wray there as on that witness list. Last week, Christopher Wray testified on this, and there was one exchange that caught the attention of the president, wasn't there?
There was a tweet that came out from President Trump, and he honed in on this exchange, which really was under the radar because the Senate impeachment trial was coming to its climax. And what the president tweeted is that all of the surveillance was illegal. That's not, in fact, the case. What the Justice Department has found is that 2 of the 4 surveillance warrants so far have been found to be defective. And here's this exchange that the president's keyed in on in his tweet between Republican Congressman John Ratcliffe and the FBI Director Christopher Wray.
Well, the report acknowledges that. So does the Department of Justice and the FISA court. They acknowledge that this was illegal surveillance with respect to at least several of these FISA applications because there was not probable cause or proper predication, correct?
Right.
Really what matters there, Tanya, is the fact that they're talking about this subsequent investigation, a separate investigation, which is looking at the origins of the FBI Russia probe. And that's the one that has criminal jeopardy possibly attaching. And we expect movement on that front with a former FBI lawyer who was found to have falsified a record and submitted that to the National Security Court, in effect misleading the court so that they could continue to maintain the surveillance of that Trump campaign aide.
And as you mentioned, there is this separate ongoing investigation by U.S. Attorney John Durham into those origins, of the FBI Russia probe. There are questions about whether the current FBI director essentially tipped his hand or not. Let's take a listen.
The vast majority of the people involved in the conduct that you're describing are no longer with the FBI, so they're not subject to our disciplinary process in the first place. But there is, of course, as you know, the ongoing John Durham investigation, which we've been cooperating with fully, as the Attorney General himself has said. So I look forward to hopefully having another hearing with you at some point where we can have a very different kind of exchange about the FBI.
So, Catherine, why is the president and his allies focusing on this and pushing for criminal charges?
It really can't be emphasized enough that there is no higher bar within the system than to provide the evidence to this very secret court to do surveillance on Americans inside this country. And what the independent Inspector General report found is that there were multiple failures, not only providing incorrect information, but also omitting information that undercut the surveillance warrant. And we have this kind of tension that's playing out now. Republicans and allies of the president really want to see criminal indictments brought for misleading this national security court. But I know through my reporting that Justice Department officials feel very strongly that if there is a crime that was committed here, they will proceed, but they don't want to use the Justice Department just to pursue what they describe to me as process crimes, so lying to federal agents or misleading Congress. So they want to really go after cases where they think a crime was committed and there was evidence of intent, rather than just a process crime, which they think has been overused in some of these earlier cases.
Interesting. Okay, so Catherine, how many times does the report include the words "did not recall," and how is that contributing to the lack of clarity here?
This is a very comprehensive report by the Inspector General, Michael E. Horowitz. It took over a year to complete. It's around 400 pages in length, and to its credit, there are very few sections that are blacked out or redacted. But I continue to read through this document because I find the more you read, the more you find. And one of the things that struck me is the number of times that "did not recall" appeared in this text. And it's well over 200 times, and surrounding key events like when officials first learned about Crossfire Hurricane. That was the FBI counterintelligence investigation that was opened in the summer of 2016. And the reason that matters is that John Durham will have broader powers to subpoena witnesses and to push them under oath for full explanations about what they knew and when they knew it.
So "do not recall" may not work with John Durham.
No, it won't.
All right. Well, Catherine Herridge, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.